What's up? It's Tatami, and I'm here today to talk to you a little bit about the beginning steps of, switching from whatever it is you do now to practicing an African traditional religion correctly. All right. So, because I know a lot of people are eager to do it. And I think there have always been a decent number of Black people interested in returning to African traditional religions or utilizing those spiritualities and religions instead of the ones that we were given here in America. Historically, West Africans were not converted to Islam or Christianity prior to colonization, and basically being forced through the slave trade and under slavery to convert, or there were penalties. Like I said, you would either be sold or you would be punished severely when you were already sold to somebody. So there's been a long history of West Africans and the Congolese, which is also where a lot of Black Americans have come from, of resistance. And because we were not only dropped off in America, there has been this marked resistance seen all throughout the diaspora, and that is why we have so many A.T.Rs or A.D.Rs. Some people call them African-derived religions as well. Throughout the diaspora, you see a lot of these religions stayed alive. A lot of these gods stayed alive. They may have taken on different names and taken on different, flora that was growing in the local area, or bodies of natural environments that were in the local areas, but they were still the same gods from Africa, a lot of the same practices, a lot of the same beliefs. And there's an underlying current throughout all of them that is very similar. Even when they are very different, have different rules, have different customs, they are still very African at their center. And so we have a lot of people who are looking to return to that, and they want to do so correctly. We have an advantage that people even 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago didn't have. A lot of our elders that we learn from now didn't have, which is that, we don't have to kind of accept whatever is available to us in the local area or immediately. We don't have to accept from whatever book we happen to find or, whatever we can happen to get our hands on. We can look further than that. We can find other people. We can, drop something that's not working for us and move on to something that is. We can find out about things that we would have never known about. And so in that sense, a lot of people want to know how to do this correctly. And so my very first suggestion for somebody trying to make this conversion, make this switch, is to get started. I kind of didn't want to say that was the very first one, but I do actually believe that that is one of the most important steps. Before you know anything else, you do know that your African traditional religion supports ancestor veneration. It is, very conducive to that. Pretty much all of them that I know of have some level of ancestor veneration involved. And honoring the ancestral spirits, that sort of thing. And they also venerate nature. So, honor nature, honor what it does, honor how it affects our lives, understand the intricate connections that it has to our lives, that sort of thing. So those two things are always there. So my very first suggestion, if you are feeling especially lost, you're like, especially because a lot of people are like, I don't know anybody, I don't know any. Start with trying to build an altar and start with trying to talk with your ancestors, pray with your ancestors, connect with nature, talk with nature, start spending more time there, start being more considerate and understanding, as our Native American brothers and sisters here in America say, water is life, right? And that is something we very much believe in. And I think, even starting that mental mindset is a lot for people because the Christian, dogma is that there's like man and then he takes care of everything else, or he's supposed to, but he's the ruler. And in this mindset, we have a very much a disconnect with nature. Christianity is a religion that is very city based. It was born and bred in the cities, y'all. It was, I mean, like it wasn't like cities like we know them now, but I mean, it definitely took root and spread in cities. And Islam is largely the same. It largely is the same. They're both, I mean, it didn't start, Islam did not start in the cities, but I will say this, I mean, where is their holy land? It's a city. It's now, it quickly switched to being a kind of city-based religion. So neither of those religions has ever had a sacred space that is nature, right? Like Jesus never, there's like, they talk about olive trees, they talk about the burning bush, but there's no place that is nature-based that was taken care of specifically because it is a sacred place, right? It is a very foreign concept to the Christian, like in the Abrahamic, the Abrahamic religion. You don't see that. And by what I mean by like it being a sacred place, go throughout America and, oh, I'm running out of battery. Okay. I had to plug in and switch over where I was. Okay, so go throughout America and you will find thousands, like pick a spot and you will find a place that was sacred to Native American people. And I say that like funny, but no, for real, like there's so many, like most of our national parks, a lot of them are sacred spaces. And one of the, prime examples, I think, of how Christians think of nature is Mount Rushmore. Because before Mount Rushmore had 4 presidents carved into the face of it, that was a sacred space to the Native American people who lived there. And they called it the 4 grandfathers because nature naturally had made it look like 4 older men carved into that part of the rock. But the Christian standpoint is this is our birthright, we own it, God gave it to us to make better, we've made it better by honoring us. And that's kind of that, I think in a nutshell it kind of shows the total difference in thinking psychologically where these 2 religious thoughts can bring you. Because let's be real, Christianity is the excuse of a lot of people in history in America. It's, oh, that's why we thought of Manifest Destiny. Oh, that's why we thought that we should just own everything. Oh, that's why we thought we were better. Oh, it's just the way people thought at the time. And it's all Christian kind of based, this sense of entitlement, this sense of, and I'm not even saying like all Christians are entitled people. I do think that a lot of people are misinterpreting what was originally supposed to occur there, but the facts are undeniable that Christianity has been largely removed from nature. Every time Christians have gone into nature, it's been this whole revelation, right? Walden Pond, John Muir, right? We have to be like, oh, like this man, he's a Teddy Roosevelt. Oh, he found out that animals were awesome. Wow, so he wouldn't shoot a bear. So now we call all the bears teddy bear, right? It's like it's got to be this huge thing when a white person connects with nature. That's why they're all trying to go to Mount Everest and die on it and take brown people with them. It's bizarre, but I think it goes back to the very Christian type of thinking, or Protestant as they like to call themselves here. I don't know. I think isn't that what they like to say is like it's a very Protestant. I don't even remember. I can't even remember. I'm going to shut up about that. America has a very specific, religious sect that we tend to. I say we, like I feel like I'm a part of this, but I live here and I'm born here, so I know these things. But anyways, my point is that getting connected to nature, just starting that thought process differently will help you on your way to conversion, right? You're going to be thinking differently than you ever thought before when you're trying to think, you know, with your ancestors behind you, when you're trying to think with Mother Nature's, you know, wellness in mind, and therefore, and you understand that her wellness being well is your wellness being well. It's not you're giving up some, oh, I just sacrifice after sacrifice for everything but myself. It's so hard being a person. I miss the good old days. You know, it's not even like that. It's that basic understanding that taking care of the earth takes care of yourself as well. It's reciprocal. There's nothing you're just giving to the earth and never getting. You're getting a lot, and you always were getting a lot, and you always will be getting a lot. So yeah, I think your first step should be to make an altar. Keep it simple. Eventually you're gonna start seeing rules. You're gonna start seeing like people saying like, you know, certain things symbolize certain things, right? 7 symbolizes spirit, 9 symbolizes ancestors, that type of thing. But you, ultimately in the beginning, I think probably should just stick with the 4 elements, you know. I like to put things in sequences of 9 on my altar because in my brain it just feels good. But I also know that, you know, there is a need for people to not do that as much. You know what I mean? To not do too much at once, to keep it simple, especially if you're still around people who may call you the devil, may kick you out, may try and harm you, may try and do some kind of exorcism. I don't know. But keep yourself safe and keep it simple at first, especially before you really know the rules. And I also say that because, you know, for certain traditions, some things will mean like, that's like totally fine. It makes no difference. And for other traditions, like the idea of doing that is like totally the wrong thing. So for example, with that, I would say mirrors. I was raised, you put a mirror on your altar for many different reasons. Queen Afua says to put a mirror on your altar. I don't follow her teachings as much, but I'm pretty sure Louisa Tish also in her books had said something like that. I think it was pretty common for a long time to put it on your altar. However, there are South American brothers and sisters who we're connecting with more now, and in their, you know, practices, it is a big no-no usually, typically, to have this mirror on your altar. And so for a lot of people over, you know, you start seeing it over here, you start seeing that intercrossing, which is fine. And so people will be like, you just see it's very split. Some people are way too sensitive to have a mirror even in their bedroom, anywhere on their altar, nothing. They see spirits, they feel like it's inviting stuff, it's a gateway, it's a portal, it's open, etc. For other people, such as myself, I see, you know, opportunities for connection with ancestors. I see an opportunity for connection with spirit. I don't see it as an open portal, especially considering, you know, which altars I put them on and my own belief system surrounding it. I don't think it's just this open portal for like any which thing to be like running through my room. Never experienced that. And you know, like I said, my elders have taught me to have a mirror on my altar. So, you know, and you know, and I know a lot of very popular elders have said similar. So, you know, it will be up to you to use your intuition is what I'm getting at for these types of things, because, and then also to follow the rules of whatever religion you end up getting into. So that's number 2. My second point was that brings me to number 2, should I say. My second point is that you need to look into your bloodline. You need to look into your bloodline. If you are not even Black, I don't know what you're doing here. Because you're not in the bloodline. This isn't Christianity. This isn't, you know, I think even Islam and Judaism, you can convert into there willy-nilly, and you know, there are different levels for different people, different places. There are certain, you know, sects, I'm sure, that don't just allow anybody, but for the most part, as we've all come to see, Abrahamic religions are looking for mass numbers. They're looking to have a lot of people, they're looking to have a lot of supporters, they're looking to have a lot of wealth. And that's not to say that African traditional religions aren't looking to, you know, build wealth and community and that sort of thing, but it isn't a free-for-all. It isn't you know, for some people it is. Some people will tell anybody anything, obviously. But these are ancestrally based religions. At the end of the day, if you think you are initiated into someone else's ancestors, you've been scammed. Like, I'm not even trying to be funny at that point. Someone out there needed some money. They figured you could spare it. And they lied to you. They said that you are calling upon their ancestors, Black people's ancestors, and you are not. If that is what you want to do, I think you also have a lot to unpack. Why you think you need to be calling on Black people's ancestors for your religion, why you're seeking out videos for that sort of thing, I wouldn't even know. So that's just off the top. If you are a white person trying to get into an ancestrally based religion, that is not in any way your ancestors. Oh, I thought I said it was turning off. That is not in any ways your ancestors. You're doing the wrong thing. That's not what you should be doing. So anyway, so that's first off. You need to have ancestors that are Black. You need to be a Black person with ancestors that are Black to be in these African traditional religions calling on your African ancestors. Don't be out here trying to work other people's ancestors in the death. That's just nasty. Like, that's just tacky, gross, unacceptable. You do need to be a Black person. And then the next step of that, now that you've established, hey, I'm a Black person. This is my birthright. This is my bloodline. These are my ancestors. This is my power. This is what is here for me. This is what my ancestors built for me and left for me, as a sense of power against white supremacy, as a sense of power to retain our culture, to retain our knowledge. This is what I have. Next, you need to look at where your family is from. So this can be general. It's if you know nothing else except you were born in Louisiana, or you were born in America somewhere. You're American. Hoodoo is your birthright. Conjure is your birthright. There's nothing else that needs to be said, right? If you are from specific parts of America, right, it can get a little more specific. If there was a Black community around where you've been, where you were, there's likely a little more specificity to the religion or the methods that are practiced, right? So you'll see variance if you go to the Gula Geechee people, or if you go around North Carolina, South Carolina, that area, and you meet people who work their roots, it will look a little different than when you go to Florida and you meet people who work their roots. It will look, their stories may be a little bit different. If it may look, if you were born in certain parts of Louisiana, right, you may practice New Orleans voodoo, which is different from the voodoo that they practice in Haiti, right? It's a little bit different. It's even spelled different, right? So you have different nuances, and that's just America, right? So you also have people who are from South America. You have people who are from, the Dominican. You have people, like I said, Haiti. You have so many different places where Black folks have been forcefully taken and brought this knowledge with them. And so different religions were created in that. So it will depend. You may be somebody who practices Santeria. You may be somebody who practices Candomble. You may be somebody who, whatever it is, wherever it is that you're from, that is your birthright, and that is what you should be practicing, right? So if you were born in Brazil, there's kind of not really any reason why you should be practicing, American conjure, for what? For why? You have something. It's super vibrant. It needs to be kept alive. It needs to be understood. It needs to be cherished. Your ancestors built that. So figuring out your Black lineage, who was where, who was practicing what, even if it's general, you still have a ton of information. I know a lot of people are like, I don't know any ancestors, I don't know anyone specific, but you definitely can Sorry, I left my notes over here when I was like standing up, so I don't want to get too crazy talking, and I don't even remember what I'm talking about. All right, so know generally where your family's from, narrow that down, and then you'll have a name of a religion to go from there. From there, I highly suggest that you start talking to people. Maybe you started talking to people before so that you could know where your family was from. That this one kind of blends with the last one, but talking to your family, talking to elders, reaching out to people who you do not know, being proactive. Because here's the thing: is this has been taboo for so long. This has been mislabeled as the devil, even though we don't even believe in the devil. We don't even have an all-evil God that we can blame everything on. Our gods have duality. Our gods have nuance. So we do not need to have this one individual who's just the ultimate trickster, the ultimate evil person. Like, we have a lot of tricksters in our, lexicon, folk tales and whatnot, and there is no devil. There's nothing even close to a devil. So, we've been mislabeled, we've been abused, we've been, it had this whole thing misconstrued. We have people to this day who at the sight of you saying something, addressing something for what it is, will label you the devil. But then at the same time, they don't blink an eye when somebody pours libations, pours a little something out for somebody who isn't here. Nobody blinks an eye. Or if you see a tree with all the blue bottles on it, nobody's going to call the police or call somebody and be like, oh, we need to do an exorcism over here. They see, little different things like, they don't see that as conjure, but it is conjure. And so, we've been trained when it's addressed for what it is to, like, in our minds, now mental gymnastics, that's now the devil. We've connected it, the keywords have been triggered, and now that's the devil. So, we are fighting these stigmas still to this day, but you can still ask people. I think asking people, talking to people, reaching out to people, being careful. Sometimes you don't have to be totally like out front. I'm trying to switch to become a conjure woman, so mom, do you know if we had any weird aunties? Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's not going to work. It's not, especially if your family is super Christian, be careful, be cool, be collected, be, nuanced. Don't, try and get yourself in trouble, get yourself kicked out, same with the altar thing. You're not trying to get in trouble. You're just trying to learn about people. And if you ask, about certain traditions, if you ask about, certain little things, that that you remember from the family, maybe that can kind of trigger things to come out, or like names to drop that are people that you can actually reach out to and learn something from. But even if you can't with your own family, being proactive is super important, because like I said, there's just that foundation hasn't been there. It hasn't been there before this. So we're kind of the first ones to be openly, blatantly, and like not be labeled as the craziest person in the family, right? Like, we all know there was like that one auntie or uncle in the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s who everybody kind of labeled them like kind of maniacal. And now all of the stuff that they were saying is common knowledge. Everybody's like, yeah, the government's doing this. Yes, of course, we need to, as Black people, we need to be like reaching forth and getting our own spiritual, stuff together, and blah, blah, blah. All the stuff that they were trying to push, and were like labeled as like being too militant, too pro-Black, it now that's really commonplace. Now everybody just shrugs their shoulders. Yeah, of course. So, it's going to take effort, because all we had was those few people who were willing to push the grain. And a lot of those people were artists, you know what I'm saying? So they didn't have as many opportunities and wealth as they could have to reach out. I mean, it's going to be difficult. That's my point. It's going to be hard. You're going to meet resistance. You're going to meet resistance from family, probably. You're going to meet resistance, through the forms of the internet, where you're going to see charlatans and like white people being the first things you see. You're going to meet resistance in the form of your research is going to have, know, be through the lens of white people and their views of things. So it's going to take a lot of effort on your part to really break down what you're seeing and utilize it correctly. But I do think that this effort is worth it, because when you put in that effort, that means the next person's not going to have to put in all that effort. Once we have enough people who are putting in this effort to reclaim, to regain knowledge, to find out what their family knows before it's gone, we will have a much steadier foundation. Oh damn, I'm like hella ashy, y'all. Or am I? I don't know. It looks really bad in there. Oh well, we'll be okay. We'll be okay. What was my other stuff? So yeah, put in effort, reach out to the community online and in person, and, you know, try to build it. Number 4, though, you need to learn to listen within. It's not just about reaching out to other people and having somebody else just hand you the handbook. It's about, you know, reaching out, starting to listen to somebody's videos, or, you know, get into certain classes, or dedicate your time to certain like books and certain authors, certain research, etc. But you also need to learn to intuitively listen to yourself. Sometimes what you're hearing is absolutely incorrect. Sometimes what you're hearing is correct, but it doesn't apply to you. Sometimes what you're hearing is correct and it could apply to you, but actually your family specifically, you have an ancestor within you who has aversions to that and thinks that there's a better way. You know what I'm saying? So you have, you need to start learning to listen to your intuition, hone your intuition, be able to utilize it, because that is a large part of this. It's not only about having this blueprint that's telling you exactly how to build your life. It's also about you figuring out what works for you. So for example, everybody uses tarot cards, right? And I do think, you know, having a deck on hand isn't the worst thing, you know, but tarot isn't everybody's strongest divination method. Some people do best with just a pendulum. Some people do best with, you know, casting bones. Some people do better making their own set of, you know, curios and items to cast and utilize. Some people use nature. Some people read the clouds. Some people read tea leaves. Some people read crystal balls. You know what I'm saying? Like there's so many options, especially today, that I don't want people to feel like they are boxed in. And even when you do a specific traditional religion, you can still utilize these modern divination methods from other things, because that is the other part of this, is that it is you're at a very beautiful cusp right now where we're using what we know from the past, but we've also lost a lot. So we're having to mix and rebuild and make something anew, something different than has ever been done before, which is, you know, disappointing in the sense that, yeah, wouldn't it be nice if we had all the information from the past? But it's also beautiful because we know that we are, you know, starting something, you know, glorious for the next generations to enjoy. So yeah, putting in that effort to really pick and choose the right thing for yourself. And then also I wanted to say with that is that what you're going to choose for yourself is also going to be building family traditions. You know, it's something that may be passed down to your grandkids, to your kids, then to your grandkids. It's something that maybe, you know, becomes family tradition. And those are types of things that you can also be thinking about that are just unique to your family, special traditions, rituals for your family to be doing. And that is and it's unique. It can be Afrocentric, it can be specific to your own family, community, culture. And I think that's such an important and beautiful and vital part of this process as well. When you're learning all this and you're coming into all this, you can also use your intuition for those like beautiful little moments, to give yourself that control and understand your own power, the power you have over your home, or the power you have to utilize holidays and decor and ritual and communion between you and your family alone, you and your ancestors, you and your bloodline. That is so powerful, so precious, so sacred. No one even knows about it except for you. And so yeah, that's just something that I think is so beautiful about African traditional religions, as well as coming into them, especially in today's day and age. We also, I have, let's see, oh, my final point was to be patient with yourself. Be patient with yourself. This isn't easy. Like I said, there's a lot of gaps. There's a lot of charlatans. There's a lot of people pushing back to Black people being in ATRs. There's a lot of Black folks pushing back to it. The first person that you see online, the first person that you reached out to, may not always be the best person. That, especially if you're still honing your intuition, you still are trying to like, you know, because I've noticed a lot of folks also, if you're coming in from Christianity, you're still really prone to falling for Christian tricks. You know what I'm saying? You don't even realize how indoctrinated you are to expect this type of stuff, of behavior, because then, like, when it happens, you expected it to happen. You know what I mean? You're getting swindled, but you were pulled in by something, like an old habit. I don't even know how to describe it very well, but I mean, like, it's the charlatan thing. It's that, you know, there's a lot of charismatic people out there talking like they know what the fuck they're talking about, and then you can get sucked in really easily, and you can get sucked into like things like respectability politics, which is like, what, you know what I mean? Like, there's so we do, I want to be careful when we come in from these Christian settings to shed those beliefs. You know what I mean? Be patient with yourself to shed them, but they do need to be shed. If you're coming into this and you're gonna like try and, you know, be getting on, you know, a woman for having sex or something, or you think that you're gonna be I don't know, like, you know, I've seen like weird stigmas about menstruation that is just like, that's so clearly colonial, colonizer bullshit, should I say. Then we have things like, what else? What other colonizer bullshit? Oh, anti-gay, anti-LGBT, thinking that trans people, or the equivalent of trans people back then before they were called trans people, didn't exist in Africa, or was only introduced by white Christians. Like, there's too much evidence that says otherwise, especially in African traditional religion. So I just, you know, understanding that like things are different. Be patient with yourself to understand the rules. Learn to be, you know, not silent, but, you know, like, you know how when you go into a setting and you kind of stay silent for a moment just to get your bearings, just to figure out the rules, and then, you know, bit by bit you slowly insert yourself, and then you get, you know, either rewarded or not rewarded depending, and you come to learn the rules, you come to learn what's going on. And that will be easier as years go on, as more people are doing this. But at the same time, I do think finding a group, finding a way to connect with people, and really reaching out, getting into that setting, and then learning, you know what I mean? Not just trying to be like, everybody should be doing that, you know, making announcements right off the bat, that type of thing, but really, you know, learning the culture, learning what's going on, being silent, trying to intuitively just see if it works for you before you even say anything, you know, and always do that reading, always do that check, to make sure you're still in the right direction. Because you know, a lot of the advertisement for Abrahamic religions, a lot of the advertisement for Abrahamic religions that I see, it's kind of like, oh, 1, 2, 3, set it and forget it kind of thing. You know, they just want a big flock. They just want, like, you know, I'm sure there are a lot of Christians out there who's like, I would rather have a decent flock than a huge flock full of like nincompoops. But for the vast majority, that's how it's run, is like, everybody, anybody, did you murder someone? Did you rape a child? Forgiven. Everybody come on in, I'm going down to like help these people out, to, you know what I mean, like, that's kind of the advertisement effect. And this is very different from that. This is not a call to everyone. This is not a anything goes type of scenario. This is somewhere where you're going to have to learn some rules. You're going to have to learn to respect certain people, respect certain environments, treat sacred things as sacred. But you're going to find it's really rewarding. And I think you're also going to find that it's natural as a Black person. We're really spiritual people. We're really chill people. We're really respectful people. We have a sense of the sacred. And I think, like, you know, working roots and understanding this as a lifestyle and not, like, you know what I mean? Not as something that you need to go to church. You need to go read this book. You need to do this specific set of this. When you come to realize that it's in the very way that you wash your floor. It's in the very way that you stir your pot as you cook. That is, you know, that's conjure. That's Black spirituality. That's what it's about. When you come to realize that that's what it's about, it's satisfying. It's not work. It's you know, I think it really speaks to a part of us. It speaks to a part of our soul, to a part of our brain. You know, it speaks to a certain rhythm that we have, maybe. I don't know. But I really think that, you know, ATRs are, it's a coming home. And, you know, you need to be patient with yourself. You need to understand that, yeah, it's going to take a little bit of effort. But you know, for the vast majority of us, we're not trying to, I say us, we're not trying to, you know, be initiated in anything, be a priestess, run a congregation. We're just trying to live our lives with our ancestors on our backs and our spirit guides on our back while we face the crossroads, right? So that's what we're looking for. And that's, you know, the ultimate goal. I think, I don't know. I think we're at a place where that's really doable, and so that's why I made this video to give you a sense of how to get started, what to expect, and also to, you know, encourage you to keep going. Encourage you because you're here because your ancestors are calling you. They're asking you. They're telling you it's time. Like, it may not have been time even 10, 15, 20 years ago, but it's time. And you know, like I didn't even realize how much it was time until my page Spiritual Black Girls on Instagram blew up like it did, and I was like, whoa, like it's really time. It's really time. You know, that was just a page to make for fun for me and other spiritual Black girls I knew who just wanted to, you know, who were at a place where they knew stuff and wanted to make jokes and appreciate each other and, you know, have fun together, relax together, be inspired together, inspired to keep praying, inspired to keep going, inspired to keep doing. It's an inspirational page, but seeing how many other people connected with it, wanted to learn from it, understood it for what it was, understood that energy, blew me away. And it shows that it's time. It shows so many of us are being called. Like, each of us thought, you know, oh, like, I'm just here, I feel so alone, but you weren't alone. You're not. So anyways, I hope you enjoyed this video, and may your ancestors and spirit guides be with you at every crossroads.